So I was searching for the next rom-com manga to read as a temporary cure for my, as I call it, I am single as fuck disease. Because looking at a 2D love story gives me a false hope of me also finding the best girl in the world by just sitting on my bed while I read it. And I am going to be honest. I didn't knew that I had thing for abs until I read this manga. It's called I Am Addicted to Her. And here's the name in Japanese, or as I like to call it, Dangers in My Heart. But with a lot of unholiness. It's about this huge weapon wielder who also have these things you call abs and this wimp-ass MC and their wholesome interactions. Actually, on a second thought, I don't really know if I can call all the interactions wholesome. But one thing I am sure of is...
It should have been me, not him!
Anyways, let's start. The story starts with the introduction of the MC, and he's sitting in the literature club alone. The club has done no activities, the reason being he's the only member. In other words, he's a loner, because every rom-com MC have to be a loner, or else how will the readers relate to it? He says this is his hangout place after school, and that in other words, this is his holy ground, and this is exactly when his holy ground is invaded. And the first thing I would say is, gyat. Damn. The MC is trying to remember that who she is when she jumps over him, giving him a good look at those mountains. The MC tries to talk to her, but gets interrupted by this other girl who's looking for the FMC. Our boy saves our girl by telling her that he didn't see anyone, and she leaves. She gets up and thanks him and tells him that she really hates the track and field club and starts going around. Then finally, we get her name and about her. Her name is Natsuki Shiho, and that she's so bright and athletic and the exact opposite of him and so on. You know the deal. He says, this is their first close interaction, and my boy is wasting no times in getting a good look at those weapons. He says, even though it's only gym clothes, but it feels wrong. She asks him if he is alone in the literature club, to which he says, kinda, because he is the only member. She says it's like a secret hideout, which makes you feel at peace, and oh yeah, boy. We know where this is going. She says that from now on, this will be her slacking spot. Our boy is shook and tries to confirm about what he heard, on which she says, can't she? He thinks of course she can't, but when he is about to say it, she hits him with the depressed face while saying, for someone who stinks, it would be a bother for him, right? And says sorry for being smelly, but I know 90% of you watching will have no problem sniffing that sweat. At least not me. She is about to leave when he comes under the guilt of making her feel bad and says, yes. She says thanks and asks his name, and we finally get his name, which is Tamiya. She says bye and leaves while saying, see you tomorrow. Making him realize that she is coming tomorrow as well and vows to drive her away from his holy ground. But we all know that ain't happening. The next day, Shiho enters the club room, and our boy says hi to her while thinking how she is endangering his holy ground and that he needs to drive her out. She asks him, what is he doing? And he says, studying as exams are coming up. He says he is terrible at math and that he'll be in trouble if he doesn't concentrate. But it turns out it was all his plan to make her feel guilty and leave him alone. He thinks it's a perfect plan when suddenly she comes closer and presses her milk cannons onto him. Our boy is in shock that his plan backfired as she tells him that she can teach him, as despite her looks, she is good at math. And oh, what's happening? Suddenly I can't remember what 1 + 1 is. He says he don't want to trouble her, but she says she don't mind to, which he thinks he do, and confuses her by saying that he is not that bad at it. His plan has failed. Some time passes and Shiho has started to feel sleepy and decides to take a nap besides him. Our boy here have to fight his demons now and thinks she has the balls to spread her armpits around him and that she is way too relaxed. He wants to ignore her, but those juicy armpits are not helping in it at all. He doesn't want to get sucked in it, and again thinks not to look. But Kamisama was feeling extra spicy because his ink runs out and his bag is on the other side of her, and he knows that it's going to be hard trying to retrieve it while fighting his demons, so he thinks do it later. But then he remembers that his Sigma book of rules has the rule number 420, which says that he doesn't have to be that polite, and that it's her mistake that she fell asleep here and goes to retrieve. He carefully grabs it and is about to be successful when his hands, which got sweaty by suppressing all the horniness, slips, and he falls on the most convenient place possible, that place being her natural cushions. She wakes up, and he freaks out. He tries to tell her that it's not what she thinks, and that he was just trying to bag her. Trying to get his bag. But she ignores it as she is late for her club. Our boy here is remembering the feeling while saying that he is glad that she didn't misunderstood. Unfortunately for him, she took him the wrong way. Our boy is in deep thoughts about the feeling he got while touching those natural cushions, and even though a day has passed, he still remembers the sensation as they were really soft. I'm adding a really soft sensation to the list of things I'll never get in my life. He is thinking about how the twin milk blaster devil is invading his life when suddenly she comes out of nowhere. He asks her, when did she got here to, which she tells him just now. She asks her, what was he thinking, but he doesn't tell her. Then the scene cuts to her, crouching beside him and asking him for a favor to borrow his fridge, saying that it'll be convenient if she could keep her drink cool. He's annoyed thinking that now she is trying to take over his fridge now. He is about to say no, but stops as something catches his ears. She tells him in return he can ask her anything he wants and not gonna lie. The next couple of panel got me rising from pants D down, and I thought that this MC knows some business. But it turns out it was all just his imagination, and in the end, he just lets her use it whenever she likes. So she puts her drink in it while saying thanks and leaves. He thinks how he got done again, and he needs to stop simping for those ultra-rare milk bazookas and think of them as just lump of fats, while he was buying a similar-looking drink to Shiho's. He comes back and puts his drink in the fridge too. He is agonizing on how the milk blasters are just fats when she comes back for her drink after school. She opens the fridge, but there are two similar-looking drinks in there. She asks him which one is hers. And now our boy is put in a situation here where if he gets it wrong, it's going to be an indirect kiss, for which I am not going to lie, I would have had no problems with. He thinks on compensating her and buying her a new one, but our girl does not care at all and just chugs one of the bottles down without any remorse. He asks her, which one? She gulped down, but she says, no idea, and who cares, as they are the same inside and our boy is shook as she has no problem with it. After some time, we are back in the club room again, and our girl here is peacefully reading a book and some fan servicing. Later our boy asks her if she wants to sit on the sofa as it must hurt on the floor, but she says she's totally fine. Then MC here snaps back and realizes that he's being considerate of her, although he wants to drive her out, but then clarifies his actions by saying being alone with her and him being the only one sitting on the sofa feels bad. So to force her to take his gentlemanly behavior the next day, he sits on the floor even before she is there. He thinks that seeing the sofa unoccupied, she'd naturally sit on it. But our girl here have some other plans as she sits beside him on the floor. He doesn't want her to sit beside him simply because her milk bazookas are way too powerful for him to handle. He speaks up and says she can use the sofa, but she says, why don't he use it instead? And somehow this line make him come to the conclusion that the sofa stinks. He thinks she doesn't want to use it because he has used it for so long that it stinks of his sweat. He gets up and cleans it for her, but somehow, again from these actions this time, she ends up thinking that she smells. So he explains her what he thought, but she obviously denies it. So to get rid of the sitting problem the next day, he ends up buying a cushion for her. He tells her it's new and doesn't stinks of his sweat. She asks if he bought this and says that she should pay for it, but he says she can think of it as a gift, which makes her happy. She grabs his sweaty hands and says, thank you. He thinks she should be a bit more comfortable now, but realizes it's becoming harder to drive her out as his inner horny demons are contradicting with his logical thinking. He sees her smiling about the cushion and gets embarrassed about it. The scene then cuts to Tamiya sitting in his class and, oh, I take back what I said about him being a loner. He actually does have friends, and their names are, well, irrelevant, so I'm not going to bother with them. One of his friends asks him what is he spacing out for and that he looks like a maiden in love, and it's gross. He says he's not in love when another one of his friend comes in, and it's a girl this time, and she's going to be relevant. So that's why I am going to tell her name, that being Sonoya. She tells him that they're on duty and have to help prep the next class. She also asks the other guys what were they talking about, and they tell her that it's about the MC being in love, which he denies, and they leave for the duty. She asks him who is he in love with, to which he says he's not. And actually, the person annoys him. And by coincidence, Shiho is walking through that hallway at that same time. He sees her, but to avoid any problem quickly runs away from her. But Sonoya here got the whiff of it, and like any other good friend tries to demotivate him into giving up about the idea. So he tells her she has got it all wrong and about the club situation and how she invaded his holy ground. But she thinks our boy just forgot to take his medicine, because that can't be real, and tells him not to get it worse. Now the scene shifts to them in club room, where Shiho brings the topic of how she saw him in the hallway, but he tries to play it off. She says she didn't call him because she wasn't able to decide whether to call him or not, to which he is relieved that she didn't. Then comes the most important question being if he and Sonoya are in a relationship or not, because if yes, then it won't be good for her to call him, but he denies it as quickly as possible, saying she's just a gaming partner and a friend, reason being the same, good old no girl would want to date me, and all. She's relieved that he's not in a relationship, and at this point, my frustration was reaching its limits, and I thought, just fucking wife her already, god damn it. She says, if that's the case, then she can call him outright, and he too should do it. He tries to say something, but she is staring into his soul to do it with her eyes and milk blasters and asks him if he got it, and obviously, he couldn't deny it. The reason being him feeling a huge sense of intimidation by those ultra-rare milk bazookas. So now before I make my whole PC screen slippery by licking it again and again, I'll ask a friend to demotivate me about my degenerate ideas so that I can remain a proper human being and end this recap here. The name of the manga was at the start of the video, and if you want to continue reading it, you can start from chapter 6. Like and subscribe if you like. Huge assets, and if not, please still do it. I have to buy my new body pillows. Now I'm going to go and become a member of a literature club so that a girl from the sports club will come to hang out with me. Bye.